Hi, welcome to the third and final video in this three-part series. This one's on microservice for handling SendGrid inbound parse. Essentially, we're going to enable you to be able to receive and programmatically handle inbound emails. Exciting stuff, so let's get to it. In the architectural diagram, we see that inbound emails come to SendGrid. Now you need to set up your own MX records to make this happen, and that's handled in the docs in other places in SendGrid. SendGrid will take any inbound emails and then send them to your inbound parse endpoint. The endpoint is built in this microservice built in AWS. There are two ways to kind of handle emails, which we will go over here shortly. All emails are sent into an SQS queue to be able to handle spiky demand. They're processed by Lambda. They're saved for storage and then also sent out to an SNS topic for additional processing. Being able to handle inbound email can be a little tricky. So hopefully this blog post, video, and Git repo can help you build a foundation to start handling inbound emails right away. So let's take a look at the code and start building. First, we go to the repo linked in this blog post and we'll download the code. You can either clone it or download a zip file. I'll download a zip file. I'll expand the zip file and then I'll open it in a code editor. There are two stacks in the AWS stacks folder. And the first thing we need to do is expand out a helper library. So we'll open a terminal window, and from the main directory, we'll go into AWS stacks, and then we will go into the SendGrid inbound parse handler. And then we'll go into layers, layer parse multi-part data, Node.js, and then npm install. This helps us parse emails sent as multi-part from SendGrid. We'll go back up a few directories, and now we're in the right spot to continue. Next, we'll open up the template.yaml file, and from here we want to search for inbound parse user. This is used for basic authentication, so set this to whatever you like, and you can set this up in the SendGrid console later. So right now it's just parse user, and again for production, make sure you use AWS parameter stores or secret managers to manage your credentials. So we'll do this here in two places. So it's in this one place, and then if you search again for inbound parse user, you'll find it the second instance and change those as well. Save your changes to the template file, and then return to the terminal window. We'll run sam build. That's going to prepare everything for deployment. And then we'll run sam deploy ---- guided with the stack name. You can copy and paste this from the blog post if you like. We will select the default name. We'll set our region, our AWS region. And then we do need to set a unique name for this inbound bucket. So I'll put a random string and then raw inbound emails bucket. Same with the queue. We'll create a unique name here, and then we will accept some parameters. I do want to call out here that a few of these questions down the road, this one here, send inbound email to S3 function, you need to say yes for this. It's not the default. We use basic authentication there for our authentication. And now to go ahead and spin up this deployment. I'll go ahead and fast forward through this. It only takes a few minutes to deploy, but I'll jump ahead for the sake of the video. And then we're complete. And we can go over to the AWS console, and we should now be able to see this newly formed stack. So I'll reload that, and there's our SendGrid inbound parse handler all ready to go. There's a simple processor stack in here as well. So let's just go ahead and deploy that. So we'll go back to the terminal. We'll cd up a directory, go to generic inbound email handler. I'll run sam build, and then I'll run sam deploy minus minus guided with the stack name. And that's going to spin up a simple Lambda handler that subscribes to the SNS topic for these inbound emails. So this allows you to do additional processing to every email that comes in to your handler. I'll speed this one up as well. It only takes a minute or so to deploy. And once that's done, you can go over to CloudFormation in your AWS console and just verify that now that one is complete as well. So you have two new stacks all ready to receive inbound emails. So we'll go back to the SendGrid inbound parse handler stack, and here are the endpoints that we're going to need. So we're using the SendGrid inbound email to S3 API. I'm going to copy that link address, and I'll go ahead and build the endpoint that we need. So I'll bring over a notepad. That's the endpoint. We need to add basic authentication. So we do that by putting in between or after HTTPS / the username : password, then the @ symbol. And then we also need to add the path to the end of this endpoint. So there is that. So that's what we need. We need to let SendGrid know that that's where we want these inbound emails to go. So I'll go ahead and copy that. And then we'll return to SendGrid, and under settings, we'll go to inbound parse, and we'll say add host and URL, and we'll put in our subdomain and the domain that we have verified. So again, you need to set up your MX records to make this work. That's handled in other parts in the docs. Then in destination URL, we'll put in that endpoint that we just created that includes basic authentication. We did not check the box for the full MIME because we're using multi-parse. So there we are ready to go. We're ready for inbound emails. Okay, let's try it out. So I'll open up an email. I will select my inbound parse recipient. I'll put in a subject and a body, and I will go ahead and find something to attach. I'll choose one of my favorite pet photos to show that attachments work just fine with this template. And I'll click send and fire that away. So now we can wait just a second or two, but we'll return to the AWS console and we can start to see the results of our work. So let's go over to the S3 console. Now we're using the direct to S3 endpoint. So if we go to the raw inbound email bucket, that's where these emails are going. And actually, once I reload this once, there it is. It's time dated. And you'll see it's in base 64 encoded. So we're just taking the base 64 encoded email event or coming over from SendGrid, and we're just saving it as an S3 bucket. But if we go into the SendGrid inbound parse, that's the event that has been created. That is the inbound parse event. And there are two files in here. One is the email.json. This has all of the data that came over in that email. So message ID, down to the actual HTML, the subject, actually all of the headers as well. So everything that was included except for the actual file and the attachment is going to be in this JSON object. So you certainly have the ability to parse this programmatically however you need. I'll return to the bucket, and then of course, as you'd expect, we'll click on the photo. And just to show you that attachments work just fine, there's the photo of my guilty pet. We did create the stack for a processor, so we'll go to the Lambda in the console and we'll find the generic handler for inbound emails, which is right there. Again, this is a simple Lambda that all it does is it reads the event and writes it out to console.log, as you can see here. But really, again, you can do whatever you want with this data. And in this event, it's not the entire email, but it's key elements of the email. So to, from, subject, and anything else you certainly can customize it to your needs. Let's go to the CloudWatch logs for this Lambda, and we can look at this specific event. We'll click on the log stream, and there we can look at this event and see that that's the data that is included that you're able to parse programmatically. Again, you can include more if you wanted to, but with that message ID, that links you back to the S3 bucket, giving you access to, of course, any attachments that are in there, but also the email.json file that has the entire contents of the email that was sent to you. So if I go into this SendGrid bucket, that message ID, it matches that folder in this event. So really everything that you need to be able to build a programmatic system for inbound emails is here. To recap, we were quickly able to spin up a microservice for handling inbound emails using SendGrid inbound parse. Emails are handled by SendGrid and packaged together using inbound parse and sent to the endpoint for your microservice built in AWS. They're dumped into S3 buckets, they're processed, and they're also sent out to SNS topics for additional processing. Hopefully this blog post demystifies inbound emails and gives you the foundation you need to expand your email capabilities. If you haven't already watched part 1 and 2 of this series, I encourage you to do so. Those are on sending outbound emails and handling email events. Thank you for watching.